Before we talk about programs, budgets, or grants, let's talk about something much deeper. Because if this part isn't clear, everything else is much heavier than it needs to be. Today's session is about passion versus calling and why discernment must come before development. Welcome to session two of From Vision to Fundable. This is D Lax. And before we begin, I just wanted to share with you the heart behind a shift in this journey. What began as a daily format has turned into a 40 session series because I don't want you to feel rushed or pressured through this content. And I don't want you to have to keep up with a daily schedule if you don't have the time. Time is valuable, and I just definitely appreciate you for coming here to my page and just checking us out. But this content right here, what you're hearing is not some type of challenge for you to complete. It's to help with a foundation for you to build on. By organizing this as sessions, you can move at a pace that fits your life, your capacity, and wherever you are on your journey without pressure. My goal is not speed. I repeat, my goal is not speed, it's sustainability. And nonprofit and community work, especially when it's rooted in service, requires discernment, not urgency. This is a session you don't want to rush through. It's one you want to sit with because clarity here will protect you later. Let's start by saying this clearly. Passion is not the enemy. Passion is often the spark. It's the moment you become aware, the moment your eyes open to a need that maybe you hadn't seen before. So passion might come from a personal experience, something you witnessed, maybe a story you heard, or something that made you feel uncomfortable, like some situation that totally goes against your beliefs, and you feel like you need to do something about it. We've got to make sure that something is done about this particular situation. That's where passion might come from. And passion is a great thing. It is awesome because otherwise we wouldn't care if we didn't have passion. But passion was never meant to be alone when you're talking about carrying full-term work. Okay, so passion is amazing. I can be so in love with an organization that has a great mission. I can come up with all the ideas. I can create organizations that have great ideas. Oh my goodness, the list goes on when it comes to passion because my heart is very service oriented. But calling is different. Calling doesn't always feel exciting. At first, when you get the call, you may be a little nervous. When God says, this is what I want you to do, you may be a little nervous and hesitant. But in some ways, you do feel excited to go to the next step. You just want to trust God because you trust His calling and you're excited to go to the next step. But it doesn't always feel exciting, y'all. Sometimes it feels heavy. Sometimes it feels inconvenient. Sometimes it feels like responsibility more than inspiration. Calling stays when the work becomes repetitive, the recognition fades because you're not going to always get recognized. We got to get out of that give me applause syndrome or stage that we might be in sometimes because when it's your calling, you might not always be recognized. Or you may be at first and then later it wanes. It's your calling. The funding might be uncertain a lot of times with the calling, and the progress sometimes it does feel slow. Calling doesn't leave just because things get hard. That's the difference. Things can be super tough and you're wondering, how are we going to get this program paid for? Where's the grant going to come from? I need a grant writer. I need a board member. Oh my goodness. If you're called, you still have to keep going, even in those moments. Yeah, even in those moments. Scripture reminds us in Proverbs 19:21, many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. This verse doesn't mean that plans are bad. It means that plans need discernment. Purpose is what remains when plans are tested, and purpose comes from the Lord. Here's a truth I want to say gently but clearly. I'm preaching to the choir. Not every good idea is our assignment. And that doesn't mean the idea is wrong. It's just that idea may belong to someone else. Some visions are meant to inspire us, and some are meant to be carried by us. Discernment helps us tell the difference. I want to share this from experience, not theory. I've spent over 15 years in nonprofit work, working with programs, strategy, and grant writing. The experience hasn't always been like, oh, this is so neat. This is so cool. I've been laid off more than once. I've had to rebuild more than once. I've had moments where I question what was next. But here's what stood out to me. Even in seasons of uncertainty, people still reached out. They needed guidance, especially around grant writing, but not just around grant writing. I found out that I'm a teacher and an idealist at heart. I'm not an educator, but I love learning and I love helping people grow and build. It's not always easy because sometimes your plans, they kind of shift. Sometimes they are stagnant or they slow down, and sometimes they just die. But the ideas, the building, the growth, I love it. And it's not always easy. And I'm always trying to think of ways to help others grow and build. It's something that I was entrusted with. And that's honestly why I'm doing these videos, these sessions, because the things that I know, I want you to know. I want you to grow. I want you to learn. And if I'm able to provide information, please allow me to share it with you. So titles changed, roles changed, but the calling stayed the same. Let me tell y'all something. Nonprofit and community work is uniquely demanding. The work is often underfunded, underrecognized, emotionally heavy, slow to show results. If passion is the only thing holding you, you will feel defeated when things do not move quickly. Okay? But when calling is present, you don't quit. You just adjust. You learn. You refine. You grow. Calling gives you endurance. In Galatians 6:9, we're encouraged. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Notice it doesn't promise quick results, it promises fruit in season. Calling helps us stay long enough to see that season come. This is why From Vision to Fundable starts here. I mean, seriously, it's something we have to pray about and that we have to go to the Word of God about. Because before we build a board, design a program, write a budget, apply for funding, we need to know, is this something that I'm passionate about or something that I'm called to steward? Because development without discernment leads to burnout. Discernment gives development direction. Let's pause together. I want you to sit with this question. Does this work energize me only when things are going well? Or does it stay with me even when it costs me comfort? There's no right answer, only an honest one. Here's your application for session 2. Take time this week to write down what first drew you to this work, what keeps pulling you back, what makes you hesitate or feel afraid. Pay attention to patterns. Calling often reveals itself through consistency, not intensity. So I want to share a little story with you all. I am a volunteer cheer coach. My husband is a volunteer basketball coach. He's coached football and baseball as well. But it's something that I don't think either one of us ever thought we would be doing. Not for free. I never cheered in high school or college. I was on the drill team for a minute in high school. I did pep squad. My mom missed the cheer meeting, so I didn't get to do cheerleading. But I know that dance and cheer are very closely related. Well, many years ago, I was asked to volunteer to be a coach. And at the time, I was like, I don't think so. I am not qualified for that, right? I had a little Moses moment, I guess. Moses was like, I'm not qualified to lead these people out of Egypt. Well, I didn't think I was qualified to be a cheer coach. I honestly did not have everything, uh, all the skills. And even today, I don't have all of the skills, but guess what? I have other coaches who can help, and they're younger and they're vibrant and they have the current cheers, and they're right there. I mean, we pour into each other. 10 years later, maybe even, I guess maybe even over 10 years, I'm not working for the organization where I started out volunteering as a cheer coach. I used to work there, right? I'm not working there anymore. But I'm still a volunteer cheer coach. My husband still volunteers with basketball. I do not deny that these sports, the volunteer part, I don't deny that as our calling. We didn't have everything in place. We just had a heart that was positioned to work with kids and to love on kids and to help them grow and educate them about the sports they were participating in. As we learned those sports, now my husband did play those sports. I played some other sports, but we learned more and more about those sports, and we were willing to give those kids the education about what we learned while we were learning. And like I said, there's no doubt about it that it was a calling for us. Never thought that I would be doing this for free, but I love it. There's this saying that do something that you love because it doesn't feel like a job. Now, I'm not sure how true that is because once it gets to work, to be a job, a for real job, there's a lot of work involved that is not done when you're just volunteering or when you're just playing and having fun. You actually have to kind of have a different type of commitment to that, right? However, I do agree with the comment. Do the work that you enjoy because you won't feel like you're working. I do believe that. There have been times where I have worked for organizations, nonprofits, done community work for free or getting paid. And I've been so closely tied to that mission that I feel like it's mine. And I will do anything to protect it and keep it and to keep it going. So with what you're building, what you're creating, I don't want to discourage you if it's just a super duper passion right now, because there are days when I've gotten out of bed and put together a whole business plan. I've consulted with God, but I put together a whole business plan for something that I felt like God was calling me to do. And either that thing has happened and it's done, or it still hasn't happened yet, but my heart is still there. Don't give up on your passions. I'm going to say that, okay? Don't give up on your passions. They're not bad. But definitely try to get clear discernment and direction. Definitely see if you didn't do that thing that you're so passionate about, what kind of headspace would you be in? Would you feel like you're leaving a deficit in the world? It's hard, it's hard sometimes because we have the ideas and we want to give them to the world, but we have to find a place for them and we have to organize them in a way where not just the community will be pleased, but God will be pleased. But the first thing we have to do, of course, is to seek Him, because none of this matters if He is not leading the way, if He's not directing us and ordering our steps and telling us what we have to do. And it really might take some fasting, but it definitely takes some praying, staying in the Word, in the Bible, and making sure that you're listening. Okay. In session 3 of From Vision to Fundable, we're going to talk about why your lived experience matters and how it can become an asset in building programs that truly serve. If this session helped you, consider subscribing and saving this video. You don't need to rush this journey. Just stay faithful to it. Your opportunity awaits you, and readiness is how you step into it. Until next time, peace. And let God be your guide.